The kind of social protection Ugandan migrant workers are seeking for is not that of old age based kind of benefit. Because when you look at the migrators, the majority is these are youth who are not suffering from any age challenge that may need a cover for their old age to get these social benefits. They rather seek to have a different tailored kind of protection which suits their challenges at hand, which suits their problems, a tailored approach towards the mitigation of the challenges that they face at their places of work when they migrate out of Uganda. And by the fact that they remain part of Uganda's population, and as we are coming close to census, we don't believe the national census managers are not going to also include the migrant workers, since they think this is a population that should not be planned for, catered for, considered in the national social protection policy, to be mentioned clearly that indeed this is a special category that requires a special tailored program for their issues, for their retirement packages. For their retirement. For one to think that retirement will only, or social protection will only encompass or focuses more on too early age and minding more of the benefits after that or reaching that age is wrong in relation to migrant workers. The kind of protection we are seeking for is that suits our challenges at hand. The migrant workers face enormous challenges. The programs in place, or the policies of labor migration today in place, they have externalized a number of Ugandans abroad. But when you check these regulations and these policies available, most of them exclude these migrant workers' welfare. Thus, meaning that they do actually don't consider the social protection. Because if you don't mind about a mere welfare of those you have cleared to go out of Uganda, this means that you don't even worry. You cannot even mention about insurance. You cannot even mention about the social benefits that will come later on return and integration. You don't mind. So these policies should begin to envisage, to see that what a Ugandan youth, because the biggest number of these youths are, the biggest number of these migrant workers are youth. These are youth who really need special attention, a special way to care for them. They need a special kind of social protection, which mitigates their challenges at hand, solves them in a short term. Because what they need is not long-term things. A worker lives in Uganda, promised to go and work for 2 years. Within the period of 2 years contract, this worker begins to get challenges. Some of them get deported even before they complete their contracts. Others are deported at the end of their contracts. Others suffer, 3 months down the road on their contracts. And then they suffer different challenges when they have no one on ground to assist them. And at the end of it all, the worst gets, it gets worse when they return home or when they are deported and they find a hard landing. That by the time they reach home, they find no one, they find no single package for them to land on. So we are desirous to have a soft landing. We are desirous as migrant workers to have on-ground support in case of challenges within our work. The welfare package should be able to provide the rescue programs, a rescue mechanism, 24/7 rescue mechanism, a return and reintegration support system. It must include the workers themselves because they best understand their issues. Remember, these are informal migrant workers. The majority, almost 90% of those who are externalized or of those who migrate for this work legally through these ministry clearances, they are totally informal, who need their colleagues, their fellows with experience to be on ground. So we don't want the confusion of when we talk of social protection or migrant workers social welfare protection issues, they begin to confuse it into a long-term thing that it needs, like an approach of these different schemes that are available. Yes, it is a scheme, but it must be tailored differently according to the problems and the challenges of migrant workers. A scheme that cares about a Ugandan who lives regardless of having relatives or whatever, but once he's counted as a Ugandan and decide to leave this country, he's seen in a certain database where he can be followed up, where government can remain accountable for his exit, not in a status where people just move, they create a state of nature, and then they say, for us, we just give them freedom of migration. Whoever wants to go can go. Then at the end of the day, there is no single common database which allows or which screens out those who are able and those who are not. In this sense, what do we mean? That there are many people who have left this country even unfit to be exposed to certain places of work, to certain work. And at the end of the day, when they suffer, the excuse is, we don't know how they went. We don't know even whether, they bring so many issues so that they distance themselves as government. Can't we have an approach that brings us to accountability, that brings both the worker, the prospecting migrant worker, or any migrant, whether student, whether whatever, can we have a mechanism that brings this to accountability and the ministry itself and government? Because in such a situation where people are exposed to just, move anyhow, without any single database, no single welfare arrangements, no one is concerned. Government will remain quiet, will remain in a distance to say, we don't know. They just utilize their freedom of migration. Therefore, we don't know how they went. And even the workers themselves, even when they leave or go through unlawful channels, trafficking and others, for instance, they will always not be accountable. In other words, everyone will distance with an excuse, we don't know, or we made a choice on our own, or after suffering, then the questions will come, who is responsible? Who aided them? And therefore, when you lack strings, it becomes very difficult even for government to rescue. So the kind of welfare we are talking about as migrant workers is a special scheme, a special category we are seeking for to be tailored within Uganda. Like other countries have done it, and we shouldn't mix it from these national other social security schemes like NSSF and others. It must be a special one. Like it is for the government pensioners, the people who are pensioned under government. It is a scheme which is funded by government. It's not contributory, but government from the URA, from the revenue they collect, they save for their old people, for their workers. Okay, if that is like that, then there is that of NSSF, which caters for all the Ugandans within the jurisdiction of Uganda. We don't want you to begin confusing us that you want to go and even, anywhere and start putting everyone. The other jurisdictions are not yours. And the kind of problem or the nature of problems, the people we are talking about, the youth who are not suffering from age, They are suffering from torture, salary denials. They are suffering from rapes. They are suffering from forced deportation. They are suffering from lack of anyone or lack of one to talk to whenever they have a distress. They are suffering from forced labor. They are suffering from slavery. They are suffering from a return that has got no one concerned. Whether they are sick, whether they are limping, whether they are what, they are suffering from that. They are suffering from a lack of insurance scheme, as an insurance package, whether medical or death, whatever you may call it. They are suffering from a hard landing they face when they return home. They are suffering from a lot of questions, which we are saying these are quite different from the questions you may want to answer as NSSF when you are in the jurisdiction of Uganda. For Ugandans who are living in Uganda, able to eat their commando, whether they are 98 or at the age of 18, they are able to still face different challenges. And what you need to do as NSSF or others is to only think about how they will retire in their old age. But for a migrant worker who has left Uganda and has gone somewhere, actually an economic migrant, a short-term kind of migrant worker who moves with hopes of returning home, not going as a refugee or somebody who has migrated forever. This person is a special category before even you think about somebody else. Is a person who is going to go and again come back in your hands. Therefore, must be prepared for differently, for a serious government. So the confusion about what we want, the scheme we are looking for, or whatever we are desiring within the social welfare we are seeking for is quite different. It's quite different that government or whoever is stake should consider. Let the confusion within Ministry of Gender stop, because they want to pretend. Now, when we propose such a good thing, you will find officials in Ministry of Gender pretending to know it better. And yet they are the very people who developed a poor policy, a poor, stupid policy, poor, stupid policies. You go and look at the ACA regulation of 2021, which excluded migrant workers and distanced from even mentioning about their welfare. Now we are here bringing them back to regulation of 2005, which was at least a little bit talking about the welfare. But you'll find when it comes to commissioning of these projects we are seeking for, you'll find again guys with stomachs in the Ministry of Gender moving around, pushing their stomachs, trying to show you how they are much concerned about the welfare, and yet they cannot deliver it the way we are practically proposing it, excluding the migrant workers. That's why the element of migrant workers being involved to mention what they want, to be part of the process, to be part of the very activities that must be done is key. And this is the reason why we are sending this message. There is confusion going on. When we talk of Ugandans who can't avoid leaving this country to go for cheyo, to go for whatever they are doing. When you talk of the Ugandans that are vulnerable here, the youth, the 80% who are unemployed, we mean those who are not suffering from age. And actually their hopes are within 2 years, 4 years, 5 years. Their issue is not age. Somebody is just 22 or 21. He wants to go and work as a maid in Saudi Arabia. She's not suffering from age. Therefore, when you are designing their packages are not about, their social protection packages should not be about age. It's about the problems at hand. How do you go about them? How do they return and benefit from what they were exposed to or whatever they went to do? How do they have an emergency or a contingency plan? What is the Uganda migrant workers contingency plan? Those who suffer. Has the country thought of that? Considering the enormous tax collected out of these migrants, out of people who migrate. Therefore, the scheme we are seeking for, it's not about the old age vulnerable group. We are talking about the victims, the youth victims who have suffered home and away. First of all, they suffer the unemployment home. They choose to migrate forcefully while they still even miss their homes. Others are youth in the youthful stage. They miss a lot. They miss sex. They miss a lot that they say we should abandon it. They fast. They choose to go and fast, not to have sex for all those years in those countries, trying to work and hustle for their families. Then when they return home, they find a hard landing. How many of the younger girls we have buried here, and you cannot find even a single package for their children. Yet you hear the social protection policy talking about how they should worry and consider all these people to be beneficiaries. Why not that special package for Ugandan migrant workers? And as a voice, we're not going to stop until this happens. What we are calling for is the commissioning or is the endorsing of the social welfare protection. The social welfare protection scheme for Ugandan migrant workers abroad, where the fund comes in place, whatever you may call it. What we need a tailored special package for us. Whether it is handled by private sector or government, it should be thought in that line. Let us stop the confusion that we shall all be packed under NSSF. That we are going to resist it tooth and nail. We are going to resist it. Let the NSSF handle the Ugandan issues. Ugandans who are in Uganda, there is a lot of people who have not yet joined their scheme. They are on streets riding border, doing anything. Are they not Ugandans? Are they not part of the population that must be also given a chance to be savers in those other schemes? Like for instance, there is a government savers scheme. I mean, this pension scheme. Do we all private people go to save in this pension scheme for government, for the public service? No. Actually, their service and their savings, they come from government revenue. And nobody is forced to go there and save from there because we are not public servants. Therefore, these other categories have a right to choose to have a scheme. And therefore, for a huge number like migrant workers, a huge category, such a sensitive category, a special scheme for them must be developed to enable them have a special way how their issues can be handled. Just to benchmark, there are many countries who are trying to do this. You go to Philippines, go to other countries and you see those who are labor exporters. How do they do to cater for their migrants who live home? Do they also pack them within the national social security, whatever? No. If there is a policy that envisages all of us, then we should be also worried about. We should be worried about our status quo. And any solution to our status quo should come regarding or tailored according to our problems. Not according to how others were done, how we should expand this, how we should expand NSSF. Who told you, please? From the inception, did you start as NSSF to care about migrant workers? Do you really have expertise in what the migrant workers are going through? We therefore would like to advise that a special scheme be developed according to the nature of those who are suffering. If Ugandan youth are the issue, these are youth whose targets are within a short period of time, not the longer, and secondly, their employers are not employing them as you may employ the employers here in Uganda with much hope that for many years they can even renew these contracts. Others cannot even do not even have that hope. Their bosses have exposed them, used them within a short period of time and dumped them. How do you consider that? And besides the traceability, how do you trace on the contributions which may be done by their bosses or their employers? Is it possible? Is it enforceable? Or you are going to, at the end of the day, leave the burden to the worker, to the migrant worker, to suffer contributing, and even when he's not part of decisions or part of whatever you are getting out of him, because this is what you want to do. Whoever may want to develop such a thing may think that the workers' leadership shall be excluded, and therefore decisions shall be made by the elite top, and the technocrats in the ministry and whoever we call. No, that's wrong. The first step to achieve such a scheme, it should be the recognition of this category of workers' leadership or this migrant leadership in the country. Once you recognize that, then you have got a sense of belonging for them. They will have a stake for whatever decision you will take. But once the Ministry of Gender resists and does not want, or once government does not want to come out and stand, make its position on that, pronounce itself on that, then it will be very, 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 very wrong for anyone to proceed and try to think that it's going to bring this kind of scheme and it benefits Ugandans. Maybe it will be an arrangement to steal Ugandans' money, because you cannot be there like how they collected the $30 in Saudi Arabia off our contracts. $30 up to now, because workers were not part of the decision and they are not part of. Just like how the Ministry of Gender is flirting around, Joint Technical Committee. If you ask them, are the workers part of the Joint Technical Committee? Who are their representatives there? How, who are there? How do you even come up to select their representatives? Do they have a leadership in the country? They don't have. At the end of the day, stupid decisions which expose Ugandans are taken within these technical committees, within these decisions made within the ministry, as if we are all working for the ministry. This is what we are talking about. The people you are externalizing out of Uganda are not government servants. They are not public servants. Stop sitting as public servants. Then you decide for us in private sector. We all have a stake. We all have a say. This is what we are saying as a voice. It is a mistake for Ministry of Gender and some international bodies to always sit and decide things concerning Ugandans, a local Ugandan. You conclude because you have put funding and you forget the leadership or the representation of those people you are discussing. It is very wrong. You are actually promoting corruption, because even if you are a funder from maybe GIZ or any other organization you may call it, IOM, ILO, you may send your money, you reach in the Ministry of Gender, you make your whatever, but we are telling you the people you are dealing with in the Ministry of Gender and posing in pictures, they are quacks. They have stolen our rights to the nerve. They are the frustrators of our peace, of our welfare. But yet we see you every day, we in conferences with them, we don't see any representatives, the voices of workers. Where are they? And if in any case you are planning something good for them, why don't you involve the beneficiaries? Who are the beneficiaries of those meetings you are trying to discuss? You say you talk about migrations. Are you the ones who migrate? Or it is the local Ugandans, the informal Ugandans who do not have any single representation in your meetings? When you are discussing about issues of the people, please involve the people. Don't discuss them when they are not there. That's what we are talking about. You may tell us that the meetings are at your level. Please, then don't discuss our issues because they are your level. Go and discuss your issues, your office issues. Don't discuss of solving our problems as migrant workers when we are not part of your decisions, when we are not part of your meetings. When you go behind closed doors and the next day you pose before camera, having discussed the things when we are not there, trying to show that you are caring about us. It is hypocrisy of the highest order. It is so irritating, and we are wondering why you continue like that. We are not happy about that. If indeed whatever you are planning as UN or whatever, please always mind about the beneficiaries of the programs you are bringing. The youth. Where is the youth position? Where is the migrant position? Where is the workers' position into whatever you are discussing? Where is that migrant, whatever you are discussing about? Where is he? Have you recognized their leadership to always be present when you are talking about them? To defend their interests? Or you are just going to decide for them? This is how the monies of $30 were stolen from each Uganda's, Uganda migrant worker who was externalized in Saudi Arabia, leaving them empty-handed, suffering without no one, living in a status quo where even government cannot deploy a single attache to support more than 5 attaches to be in that country where they have a bilateral. Hero broke rules. Now Qatar has come. We are wondering how they are going to do it, because it might be even worse. For them, they have seen it as a trend and they think we shall keep quiet. We shall not keep quiet. You continue keeping us marginalized because you think you offer us employment. Hello. We can choose also to excite those who traffic them to continue trafficking them. After all, even when they assemble before you to clear them, you more expose them than even those who are trafficked. We don't want to reach that extent. If migration is right and you cannot resist it, we don't want to say that. And let this message reach the big people who are concerned. Do not assemble Ugandans into your regulations and then you expose them to situations which are even worse than the trafficking. And at the end of the day, they are not part of the decisions you are taking. Whatever you do, you always want to tell us you know it better, as if whatever that is happening on ground happens to you. I want to ask some of the women in the Ministry of Gender, when they are raping, are they raping you? Have you ever been raped by your boss? Maybe they rape you at Ministry of Gender and you don't talk. Therefore, you become the rightful representative of all migrant workers because you were raped in the Ministry of Gender. Hello? Huh? Have you been denied salaries as they deny those migrants you send in Saudi Arabia, in that jurisdiction? How have you cared for that? If you haven't, then you better think of the workers themselves representing themselves. Always be available. If you are not hiding anything, if you are not discussing to eat the kamane, using their problems, involve them. And let their provisions be public. We need our provisions to be public. More especially this time around, we need our provisions on social protection, our welfare to be public. We need our insurance package to be very public, very clear. If it comes within the social welfare arrangement, tailored within bundled benefits, it's okay. But we need to know. Every migrant needs to know that. Every migrant worker, whether he's stopped in P1 or never went to school, but you have screened this person to live in this country, she must know where is her benefit. That's the category we are talking about. We don't want you to continue lying to us, distancing us, taking a decision without our presence, and the next day you want us to serve the food you have cooked behind closed doors. We shall not accept that. And as migrant workers' voice, we are watching. We are following closely that we shall not tire. We want to send this message to you, over you. We shall not tire to remind you what to do. And we shall do whatever it takes to shoot that moon. When we fail, we shall land among the stars. Thank you.